Thank you for tuning in to the Leroy Brown Talk Show. As always, it is a pleasure to have you with us. I'm your host, Addison Leroy Brown. And before we get started, I'm going to talk about a little bit about something I had to deal with yesterday. And so I was taking my daughters to our property out in Windsor to go hunting, and there was this deputy's card on my front gate. And the first thing I thought of was, dear God, I'm in trouble for something and I don't know what it is. And for anybody that's been through that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like if you've ever, got in trouble in school, you knew you were going to get detention or a referral, or your parents, you knew if you came home with a bad grade, you were going to get your butt whipped. That sinking feeling that was, at the bottom of your stomach. That's what I had. And for a guy that's got PTSD and TBI, and I take a ton of medications to go to sleep, this wasn't the one thing I wanted to deal with. But today I went to Aiken County, and I had showed the card that I got, and I talked to the lieutenant that was there, and he said, "Well, we tried calling you after you called up to us yesterday, but the number we got wasn't the right number. Blah 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 blah. But we're looking for a Jason Newsome, and he had listed your address as his place of residence." And I was quick to say, well, nobody lives out there except squirrels and deer and a couple of hogs, a couple of animals, and a great set of tree, and some sand. There's nothing really out there. And he goes, well, do you know Jason Newsome? I said, I have no idea who he is. But, I kind of shook it off, and, it is what it is. They're doing their job, and I appreciate Aiken County Sheriff's Department doing their job and protecting us. But they gave me one heck of a scare yesterday, that's for sure, when I saw it, because I just went, oh, man, I'm in trouble. But, today I plan on, going back out hunting. I'm also wearing a Jacksonville Jaguars jersey in support of Thursday Night Football and the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. But we're going to talk about something that came out today. So, whistleblower complaint reportedly on Trump promise to foreign leader touches off D.C. firestorm. A whistleblower complaint that reportedly involved allegations with President Trump made a troubling and unspecified promise to foreign leader touched off a new Washington firestorm today. As the intelligence community's top watchdog was questioned by Congress on the matter, the president admittedly denied the accusations. The details surfaced overnight in the Washington Post report, but many specifics remain unclear, including the identity of the foreign leader. Fox News has confirmed the report, and the White House officials have not offered additional comment of the claims, but Trump railed against Post reporting the flurry of tweets that alleged communications with foreign leaders were being blown out of proportion. Another fake news story out there. It never ends. Virtually any time I speak on the phone to a foreign leader, I understand that there may be many people listening to various U.S. agencies, not to mention those from another country itself. No problem, Trump said. Knowing all this, is anybody dumb enough to believe that I would say something inappropriate with a foreign leader while on such potential heavy populated call? I would only do what is right anyway and only do good for the US of A. I kind of feel that, the American people just want to see this guy be successful at this point. And, I didn't vote for Obama the second go around. I did the first round because I just didn't like McCain, but Mitt Romney I didn't prefer over Obama, so I voted Mitt Romney the second time because neither one of those were in my opinion a great choice. But McCain versus Obama, I did vote Obama. But here's my thing: like, I'm not necessarily a Republican, a Democrat, or a Libertarian, or whatever you want to classify. I basically go for the president who's going to do the most for our vets, who's going to look at the fact that the military needs to be run by the military, not Congress, not by him. Because unless that president has been in the military. I don't think they can sit there and say they know what's best for the military. But, you know, when Obama was president, both times, you know, I was a soldier. He was my commander-in-chief. You know, I wasn't going to sit there and, you know, complain within the ranks or, you know, say this or that. But I kind of feel that, you know, the fact that ever since Trump won, before he even swore in, there's been a slew of just BS that's followed it. And, you know, the problem with that is you have everything now that has come out. The Mueller report didn't find anything. The IG report didn't find anything. But yet we started an impeachment process on President Trump. That part I don't understand. Just like the House Democrat majority is going to sit there and keep pressing on issues that no one else finds a basis for. I mean, we've already had stuff come out with Andrew McCabe where he did wrong. We've had the IG report say that James Comey broke the law, but we're not going to do anything about that one. We also had the reports come out where, you know, Hillary was well within the wrong. Well, we're not going to do anything about that one either. Well, that doesn't concern us. What concerns us is Donald Trump. Yeah, I don't see, you know, how you can sit there and say, you know, well, you know, Trump's the bad guy, but we have this huge pile of evidence over here that keeps pointing at the DNC and the corruption with the DNC and members who supported the DNC. We had rogue agents in the FBI doing this and that. But we're going to go after Donald Trump because that's what the American people want. No, what the American people want is for you to just be quiet, shut up, and do your job. I mean, I could care less if you're a Democrat from California or New York. There are plenty of things going on in the U.S. that you could do better by serving your time and filling slots up with legislation that is imperative for us. Maybe let's try to do something with the burn pits for the OIF, OEF veterans. Why don't we try doing a better job within the VA? Why don't we try doing a better job within the U.S.? How about let's talk about the debt within the U.S.? Oh, we can't do that. It doesn't matter the fact that it's tripled and quadrupled since the 90s. The U.S. debt calendar, you know, last time I checked it, and, you know, I'll check it, you know, throughout the show, that way we can have a better understanding of what's going on. But, you know, the U.S. debt clock is ridiculous, and you're not going to see anybody on the national news talk about our U.S. debt clock. But for anybody that, you know, cares to know, the U.S. National debt right now as it sits is $22,575,439,197,000 and counting. The debt per citizen is $68,460. Debt per taxpayer is $183,251. The U.S. federal tax revenue, which means this is what we bring in, is right at $3,513,623,323,000, and it gains $1,000 every second. But we're not gonna sit here and talk about the debt. You know, Congress isn't gonna try to pass anything for the debt either. They're not gonna sit here and go, well, we have an issue, and the issue is eventually this is gonna have to come to a head. And, you know, I hate to be that guy. I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, pretend to be a doomsdayer or anything like that. But the reality is, if you look at the stock market crash, or you look at what happened with Greece, you know, my dad used to always say the chickens eventually will have to come home to roost. And, you know, what that means is eventually you're going to have to own up to the things that you ignored, or things you lied about, or things you put off. Eventually everything comes to a head. This is going to come to a head too. If all we're doing is taking out loans with China, and the debt's going up every day, and we're not doing anything to help the debt, it's going to keep going to a head. The problem that we'll find ourselves having is you have to look at, and I'm not going to sit here and praise the man, but the one thing that Trump is doing that's right is by bringing in the businesses that left with NAFTA and left with the new energy deals and all that bogus laws we passed in the 90s under Clinton along with the 80s, and we just didn't decide to do anything with it. You had every industrial business that generated revenue for the U.S. and had jobs within the U.S. leave, and they built the economies of other countries. China went on the rise. Mexico went on the rise. If you want it to be better here in the U.S., we have to have the jobs here. We have to have the businesses that we once lost. And, for the most part, that's what Trump's trying to accomplish. We're going to move on to college football real quick. Nick Saban and those Roll Tide Elephants says the top recruit has basically quit. Alabama head coach Nick Saban said Wednesday a defensive lineman recruit basically quit. Saban said Antonio Alfano stopped going to class in football. Saban added he tried to set up counseling for Alfano and remains available, but until he responds, just have to assume the guy quit. Frankie Alfano's Antonio's father said in a series of tweets last week that his son's grandmother was very ill and is still fighting on life support. He said his son has not attended classes or practice. He added that the University of Alabama has been extremely supportive, and I couldn't ask for a better support from them. Here's my thing, I know a lot of people are going to get, wrapped up into a kid not going to class and this and that. Yeah, he's on scholarship, but if he's got financial issues or, he's got family issues, that needs to come first, not a football game. I mean, we've all gone through troubles. We've all had to go through terrible things in our life. Sometimes, it's better to focus on something that's more important than a game. My Jacksonville Jaguars tonight play the Tennessee Titans. And I think that Jacksonville actually has a better chance than Marcus Mariota and his Tennessee Titans. Jacksonville, Florida has been under a lot of different quarterbacks in just, the past couple of years. We had Blake Bortles, and then we had the guy from the Eagles that just got injured. And, Nick Foles, he broke his collarbone. 45 minutes into a game, he broke his collarbone, and now they have a new quarterback, and his name is Minshew. Minshew's completion percentage is 88.0, was the highest in the NFL history for any player with at least 15 pass attempts making their NFL debut. It is also a franchise single-game record among players with at least 25 pass attempts. He didn't just do okay. He did better than any rookie in 40 years. Let that sink in. This was a guy who was on nobody's radar. Yeah, he was drafted in the sixth pick. But nobody sat there and went, well, this guy's going to be the face of the Jacksonville Jaguars. They just spent a ton of money on the guy from the Eagles. And, here you had a gem in the waiting just sitting there. Minshew completed 23 of 33 passes for 213 yards and a touchdown last Sunday. In his first start against Houston, he drove the Jaguars down the field for a touchdown with 30 seconds to play, but the Jaguars still lost 13-12 when Fournette was stopped short of a 2-point conversion attempt. After 2 weeks, Minshew has the third best completion percentage at 77.6 and seventh best passer rating. He's 111th in the league and the single season franchise records in both categories are 64.5% and a 102.2. Mansu said, "My plan is to prove that I'm the best I can be for this team every day, at every practice, at every snap, in every game I get to play." You know, when you look at the quarterback positions right now in the NFL, Roethlisberger, he got injured. Drew Brees got injured. If you sit here and you're looking at the similarities here, and I'm not trying to jump on the bandwagon here for this guy, but it really does bring to mind a quarterback who nobody cared about, who was the backup to a certain Drew Bledsoe. And when he finally got his start, when he got his chance, he now has 6 Super Bowl rings. Yes, I am talking about Tom Brady. I'm not saying this guy is Tom Brady-esque or, he's going to be the next Tom Brady, because there's only one Tom Brady. But I do think this kid out of Washington State has a really good chance of putting a lot of the worries that are in Jacksonville right now to halt. And, I've got plenty of friends that are Kansas City Chiefs fans, and they're going to sit there and say, well, Mahomes. Mahomes is good right now. And, until the league figures out how to block him, how to, shut down the running around that he does, he's going to come out on top every time. Everybody said that Cam Newton was going to be this, top-tier quarterback, but after 5 years in the league, everybody knows that, if you just block his passers, prevent him from running around, he does nothing. And, that's kind of my opinion on Holmes. The rest of this week's lineups on Sunday: Buffalo plays Cincinnati at home. Miami goes to Dallas. Dallas, I think, is going to win that one. Miami's just trash right now. Denver plays Green Bay. I think Denver wins. I don't think Green Bay is that great of a team. Falcons go on to play the Colts. I have Atlanta winning by 3 points. Baltimore plays Kansas City. Once again, Mahomes, I think, is going to win this game. I think it's going to be a 3-touchdown game. Oakland plays Minnesota at home. I think the Vikings being at home, playing a Oklahoma team that I think has surprised everyone, to include the naysayers. Oakland Raiders, I think you're going to come out on top. The Jets play the Patriots, or, as the New York guys say, the Pats. And, I think my Patriots are going to come out on top. Detroit goes to Philadelphia. Detroit wins that game. Carolina goes to Arizona. Arizona, I think, wins that game. New York goes to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's just going to maybe come by with a 10-point lead. Houston goes to Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles wins. Pittsburgh to San Francisco. 49ers pull it out. The New Orleans Saints go to play Seattle at home. I think Seattle comes out on top, especially with the fact that Drew Brees is gone. Now, we're going to talk about the Sunday night game. Sunday night, the Los Angeles Rams play Cleveland. And I want to talk about this for a little bit because Baker Mayfield, and I know the kid went to Oklahoma. I know some of you are going to say that he's a great quarterback, but the simple truth is I think the Cleveland Browns, which are a very young team, is a very mediocre team. And I think 2 things are going to happen from this game. Either when Cleveland does win, because I do think they're going to win this game, I think everybody's going to sit there and jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, well, Cleveland's definitely a Super Bowl team. Look at them. They're so good. Meanwhile, when you look at the Rams haven't done anything to impress me. I mean, here you are, they lost the Super Bowl and everybody had them picked for the Super Bowl, for the NFC. I don't think the Rams go to the Super Bowl. I think the Rams are trash. I don't think they have the talent that they had last year. I don't think they have the team that they had last year. I just don't see them being a top tier team that goes to the Super Bowl. In all honesty, and I know it's very early in the season, so don't sit here and quote me on it. But if I had to pick a team out of the AFC that, I think truly can go right now if tomorrow was, the playoffs, I think the Patriots have a great defense and a great offense. I think they go to the Super Bowl. Out of the NFC, I think the team that can go and probably will go to the Super Bowl is going to be led by a quarterback by the name of Dak Prescott. Now, I know there was a lot of things that came out of the Cowboys camp over the summer, and Ezekiel Elliott's the highest paid running back, and I think Jerry Jones was an idiot for spending the money that he spent on him. But I think that's who goes to the Super Bowl out of the NFC right now as it sits. I think they're the best team to go against, the best team to prove themselves against. Chicago's on the road at the Redskins. I think the Redskins come out and win that game. I think Chicago's just going to get manhandled. We're going to move on to Fort Gordon. Fort Gordon Law Enforcement Center was one of 23 agencies honored for their work in promoting traffic safety by Governor Brian Kemp yesterday on Wednesday. The department won first place in military and federal police category in the Governor's Challenge Awards ceremony in Macon. The Governor's Challenge Awards honor law enforcement agencies for their work to prevent crashes, injuries, and deaths in their communities, college campuses, and military installations. The Governor's Challenge Awards are a way to let our law enforcement officers know that they are making a difference every day when it comes to saving lives on the roads. The Governor's Office of Highway Safety Director Alan Poole said, "We were also honored to have Governor Kemp with this celebration for 20 years of honoring state and local law enforcement officers for their service and dedication within their communities." My hat's off to Fort Gordon. As an infantryman, I can always appreciate MPs with their front gate. And, Fort Gordon, when you've been in the military and you've gone to Fort Benning, Fort Gordon, Hunter Army Airfield, Fort Jackson, Fort Bragg, Fort Gordon is very quiet. It's very clean. And I think, everybody at Fort Gordon does an amazing job. And I'm not just saying that because I have to go there and that's where I do my Botox and I do a couple other appointments there. My kids go there for their appointments. Fort Gordon deserved that award. And I think, they're going above and beyond. We're going to talk about the Gamecocks because tomorrow I'm covering UGA and Clemson. But the Gamecocks go on the road to Missouri, or the Mizzou. And as much as I love the new quarterback they have, I just think Jake Bentley didn't, prove that he was a starting quarterback. And I know there were so many people out there that said Jake Bentley was this great quarterback. I just never bought into the hype. Helinski, I think, is a good quarterback. I think South Carolina has a lot they have to grow and do to be a contender, and it starts in the head office with the head coach. And, I'm going to sit here and, they have one of the toughest schedules this year. I think they go to Mizzou and lose to Mizzou by a field goal. If they play the way they did in the first two quarters against Alabama, I think the Gamecocks will actually win against Mizzou. But it's all, dependent upon who actually shows up to play that game. And I just don't see that same team that showed up in the first and second quarter of that football game playing all four quarters. I could be wrong, but I've been a Gamecocks fan for a very long time, and The only coach that I knew that truly got up in those players were Steve Spurrier and Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz knew what to say to his players along with Steve Spurrier. I see a lot of similarities with what Muschamp did at Florida with what he's doing here at Carolina. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that things magically changed because they haven't. South Carolina as a whole is, they have a loss against North Carolina, a win against Charles Southern, a loss against Alabama. And if you remember at the beginning of the year, I called this. I'm not going to say I had my Rush Limbaugh moment of where, I came out with the truth. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I predicted. Again, North Carolina was going to be a loss. Charleston Southern I said would be a win. Alabama I said would be a loss. Missouri I said would be a loss. Kentucky, Georgia, Florida losses. Tennessee's a win. Vanderbilt's a win. We lose to the Aggies. We lose to Clemson. And now I know you're going to say, well, what about Appalachian State? What about Appalachian State? Well, the problem there is Appalachian State will blow out a Division I if they sleep. And I think when South Carolina beats Vanderbilt, they're going to come in to Williams-Brice Stadium that following Saturday on November 9th, and the Appalachian State's going to just manhandle them. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that, my Gamecocks win Missouri, win Kentucky, win Georgia, win Florida, win Tennessee. I hope they win the rest of the season. But I'm a realist. I know it's not going to happen. Now, you can sit here and complain and say everything that you want, that, I'm just hating on the Gamecocks, but the truth is the truth. As always, it's a pleasure to have you tuning in to the Leroy Brown Talk Show. If you would like to sponsor this show, you can do so by contacting 706-738-9191. That's the station phone number for WYBO, the Soul Mine. And when you call in, just tell them that you want to sponsor the Leroy Brown Talk Show. You can also reach out to 843-290-9482 to say you'd like to sponsor us, and you'll actually get to talk to me on the phone when you call that number. You can also go to 929soulmine.com to listen in to podcasts, to see upcoming events with 929 The Soul Mine. You can follow us through the TuneIn app on your smartphone, if it's an Android or if it's an iPhone, and just click on the WYBO 929 logo, and you'll get to hear us play all of our music throughout the day. And then at 8 o'clock, you'll get to listen to my beautiful voice come over your speakers. You can also email us at the Leroy Brown Talk Show at LeroyBrownTalkShow@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook. I encourage you to follow us on Facebook because you'll see some behind the scenes stuff. You'll get to see some of the videos we post up, and you'll get to read about some of the special guests that we have on our show, their backstory, their history, and put a face with a voice. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Leroy Brown Talk Show, or on YouTube at Leroy Brown Talk Show as well. As always, CSRA, it's a pleasure to be able to come to you through 92.9 The Soul Mine, WYBO. This is your host, Leroy Brown, saying if your main chute doesn't deploy, remember, you always have your reserve on standby. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.